Welcome to Horse Talk, a podcast brought to you by the Mid-South Horse Review. At the Mid-South Horse Review, we believe that horse ownership and equestrian sports enhance the lives of our community. Whether a horse lover is a lifelong equestrian, a hobbyist, or a professional, we hope to help guide and be a resource for you and our equine community. No matter the stage of riding or horse ownership, we are here for you. I'm Lauren Pickford Abbott, publisher of the Mid-South Horse Review, and your host. Let's get started and talk horses.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Training Tip Tuesday.
Yay.
And Robyn Miller, our co-host, is here. I'm Lauren Abbott, the publisher of the Horse Review. But we've had such awesome engagement with our last Training Tip Tuesday conversation. I'm pumped. I saw Robyn this morning because I had a lesson. I didn't look like this. I got cleaned up. I actually had a meeting before this, so I had to get cleaned up. Otherwise, I'd still be in my baseball cap too. But how's it going, Robyn?
It's going well. It's going well. We had a great lesson with Kevin this morning. It was exciting. Always love to see you two progress and start to come together.
Yes, it was a very uneventful for Kevin, which good lessons should always be uneventful, right?
That is the definition of a good lesson, is uneventful.
If you go to a horse show and it's uneventful, or you go to your lesson and it's uneventful, for me, it's a success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime you take your horse off property, especially, is a success if it's uneventful. That's one of the key descriptive words that means you did something right.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we were talking this morning about our conversation today, and I told her before I went on vacation last week, I am bringing my Mustang pony back into shape, back into exercise. I have not ridden him consistently in 2 years, which Robyn knows. I brought Kevin to her of 2 years of downtime off the track. So we had a great conversation, I'll call it, on the ground. He's very hypersensitive. So we did groundwork. I've been practicing the groundwork of what, I've learned through Robyn's techniques and with Kevin. And he would get a little agitated here or there, kind of nip at me. Not unusual for him. He's kind of nippy. I reprimand him. But then when I got into the saddle and I went to kind of turn his head to the side to kind of teach him, see where his mind was at with his bit, he reared up and then he went into a little bucking fit. So I pulled the parking brake, as I like to call it. And he's never done that before. So now I'm like, crap, this is on a whole nother level of needing assistance. Let me put it that way. So we're talking about it today. And I really need to work with him on really getting him desensitized. But also when I got him under control and I tried to get him to move forward, he would still buck behind. So anytime I would kind of squeeze to make him walk forward, I kind of wanted to bring his head up because I didn't want him to drop it down low and buck me off. But I would try to squeeze, and he had all of the reins. My hands were completely forward, and he just wouldn't move, and then he would hop behind. So it's like he didn't like my leg on him. So we talked about desensitizing, things that we can do on the ground. He's not going to get ridden for a while now. We need that consistent groundwork to get something under control. Right. But yeah, your input, Robyn, just me telling you the story this morning.
Yeah, I was a little shocked because he is a little bit older and had been ridden, but every one of them reacts differently to time off, and there's no predictability to it sometimes. And you said he was kind of sensitive before he went out of work. So it kind of falls into place a little bit with me saying, okay, this sensitivity isn't just some random new behavior. It's a little bit more like, I think I don't want to go back to work, a little resistance in there, but we can for sure get some tools in there to check out where he's the most sensitive, try to desensitize some of those areas and get him conditioned to accept pressure. What it sounded like to me was he was completely rejecting or offended by the pressure you were putting on him through your leg, and just said, no, I don't like that, and made it a little uncomfortable and difficult for you to work through that. So on the ground, one of the things that I would do to get him better with that is to work him with the flag. The flag is a great tool to desensitize, because you don't only have sight and sound desensitization, but you also have touch. You can reach out, you can touch him. It's a safe distance to be, and it presents itself way different than, say, a lunge whip or a dressage whip, something like that, that you can also stimulate with them, but it doesn't typically have as many versatile uses. But the flag, I really love the flag because you can make noise with it. It can go above them, it can go below them, and you can do a lot of different things with the flag, especially touching them. You can get them where they understand energy coming off the flag means go. So when he's saying no off your leg, you can use a little bit more of a intended tap with that flag to say, when I tap you here on your belly, I really want you to move forward. The positive thing on the ground is, if he overreacts like he was doing for you with wanting to either kick out at it or a little hop or something of that nature, first of all, you're not on him to get bucked off, and you don't feel like you have to stop immediately everything that you're doing in order to kind of work through that. So I would just kind of lightly kind of tap wherever he feels irritated or throws his ears back, those kinds of things. Because as we talked about the last time, learning what their body language is and what they're telling you through their expression, where their head position is, the tension of their muscles, are they accepting it? Are they relaxed, or are they more irritated, annoyed, or fearful? So you'll be able to determine, is he fearful? No, you don't think he's fearful. We think that he's a little bit more irritated and saying, no, I really don't like that pressure, and I don't feel like I need to move from it. So then you can stay in there, kind of tap him with that flag a little bit in that area that he's refusing, like where your leg would be, and let him throw his little fit as you're getting him used to it. And then when he shows a moment of, I'm moving forward with more of an accepting body language, calms down, you take that pressure away, you rub him with the flag, and it's just like petting him and letting him know he did the right thing.
Yeah.
So we definitely have tools to use with the flag in getting those sensitivities kind of calm down a little bit.
Yeah. And I don't think I mentioned this earlier when I was talking to you about it. This was not his first ride back. This was, I had been on him. Now, when I didn't just walk trot, I'm not even like thinking about, he is so out of shape and plump right now. Just getting him some kind of exercise is, and I consider like walking a great exercise for him right now. But I did last time when I did squeeze to kind of bring him up just into like a really slow trot. He did kind of crow hop a little bit behind, and then he worked out of it. It was fine, but he was completely insulted this next go around. And maybe because he was like, man, she just worked me. She should come back in like a year. Why is she getting back on me? So it was definitely more of I went through my checkbox of, okay, he really didn't like it when I didn't take a hold of the rein, but just kind of flexing his neck around, and he really didn't like that. And then when I was putting my leg on, so I was like, could it be teeth? Could it be? No, I think he was just irritated that his buddy was in the stall eating and I was on his back.
And that could very well be, but also something to consider is you're changing your approach in bringing him back. And I'm sure you're asking things of him in a new way. Just like when you take a hold of the rein to flex him, you said he's pretty light in the mouth, and he might be going, what is this pressure? What do I do with it? And just starting off in a different manner is enough to get him a little bit more on the defensive side. So we'll work through that until he understands that pressure isn't anything he needs to worry about. It's not a negative. It's just an ask and an offer in something different. But that there again on the ground, we can work through some of those sensitivities just by flexing his neck with the halter, standing next to him, and see, does he take the same offense to that?
Right.
And then we can apply a little bit of pressure on his body as we're flexing his head and ask him to move away and see if he's still offended by that, all while you're still safe on the ground.
Yes.
So those are all different little tools.
I was shocked I didn't come flying off. I was like, man, I don't want him doing that, but at least I stuck on there good, I mean, because it was like a rare twirl buck type of thing. And yeah, but I definitely do need to desensitize him with just a little bit more. He was born in the wild, and he has never offended me or made me fearful or made me feel like he is a naughty pony or a dangerous pony by any means. But he was born in the wild, and he's always been more hyper aware of his surroundings. I'm not going to say spooky, because I grew up riding a very spooky thoroughbred that came off the track, and there's a distinct difference. It's more, he's looking in the woods like, is there a cougar in there? Because I had to survive in the wild. Whereas, my spooky thoroughbred growing up, it was more like, oh God, I don't know if I'm okay. I have PTSD. It's like completely different type of awareness versus spook. But yeah, we did take a video today, because my biggest thing is when I bring this flag out, obviously I'm not going to bring it out and start throwing it all over his body, but I do think it's going to benefit him. But it was, how do you even begin to desensitize a horse? And if you are going to do the groundwork with the flag as what we've been working on in your program, Robyn, how do you even do that? So we did take a video today, and I'm going to play that video, and Robyn's going to walk through. But I feel like this is just a great look. Me growing up in the hunter jumper world, if somebody had handed me a flag when I was a kid with my spooky thoroughbred, I would have been like, you're crazy, get out of here. Like, I don't want to do this. But just the overall, it's not a punishment tool. It's there to assist with just the overall dance, as what I like to call it. So let me share this, Robyn. You can walk through and give feedback. We did record Robyn, and she was talking, but it was so windy this morning. So not only is Robyn waving a flag around, but it was also super, super windy. So this is a great example of what can be done with a potentially spooky horse. This is my new thoroughbred. But I'm just impressed overall. Robyn, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay.
Okay, so what I wanted to make sure everybody knows is, before you just pick up a flag and really start waving it around, as you see, I'm dropping my flag. I want to make sure I can move my horse around just with the tail of the rope. I want to be able to apply some body language, offer my lead hand so he knows direction. I can twirl the tail of my rope so he can understand how to untrack his hind quarter. We talked about untracking the hind quarter, where they step across and forward with their inside hind. And every time they do that, we can kind of get control of their body so they can't kick us or leave. It's helping to keep them in the circle. And I want to make sure I can bend their neck a little bit in my direction. When I'm introducing the flag, I always want to be sure, first of all, I don't have them on a really long line, maybe about 6 to 8 inches, a foot max of line from the end of the halter to my hand. And the reason for that is I don't want the horse to be able to get his head really, really far away from me. If he gets super scared, I want to be able to redirect his nose toward his hind quarter to be able to untrack and stay safe. The other thing is, I don't want to have the line where it can wrap around my hand. If he got super, super scared and tried to rear up, I don't want it wrapped around my hand. So I try to hold it in a fashion where I can get loose from it if they really, really overreact, because they can be so fast. And then I'm going to make sure that I position my body between their jaw and the point of their shoulder. The reason for that is, any pressure that we put in front of them will typically have them back up or back away from it. We always want our horses to think forward out of trouble. So we want to engage the hind quarter. Even if we want them to stop, we want them to stop with a forward thinking motion. Anytime they're thinking backwards, they can rear, flip over, break a halter if they're tied, those kinds of things. So I stand in that region between their jaw, the point of the shoulder, so I can block the front end if I need to with my lead hand, which is the hand attached to the halter. And then I will take my flag and I will just start flapping it just gently out wide. And I want the energy from the flag to come up being non-threatening and very rhythmical. And I'll see what the horse does. If he can handle that, then I'll stop, pet him, reward him, release that pressure. They learn from the release of pressure, not the pressure we put on them. But if we release before they accept it, they learn that that's what we want to do. So we want to always release when they are exhibiting the behavior that we desire. Then they go, oh, that's what she needed. I'll do that. So I'll just kind of tap that flag, and if they can't handle it just out wide next to them without moving their feet, I'm just going to stay in there and kind of follow them, not chase them. Follow them with the flag. Keep untracking that hind quarter as it moves around until I feel them take a breath, find a spot to stop. Then I stop and reward them. And then I will start with that same action again. I won't progress forward until they can accept what I've already done. Otherwise, you're just making them more fearful if they're fearful. So once they can accept the flag, nice and rhythmical out wide, then I'll take the tip of the flag and I will reach up and I will touch them on top of the hind quarter. And I want it to land up there as if it was my hand coming across the hind quarter to brush them. And I will do that repeatedly. If they have to jump away, I will continue to try to do that until the hind quarter stops. They take a breath, they acknowledge. One really, really key point to pay attention to when you're attempting this is be very aware of where the horse is mentally. Make sure he doesn't feel like he needs to jump on top of you. So your lead hand might have to come up next to your head or above your shoulder to block the front end and have them move away. That's another reason for the rope to be short, so we can bend that neck, push the hind quarter away, move them off and out of our bubble, our personal space. Even if they're scared, you don't want them to think they can jump on you. That's never a good thing. The other thing with the rope being short and being able to block the front edge, you can also bring the nose toward you to roll the hind quarter away so they can't kick at you. The biggest thing that you want to avoid is letting your rope get too long so the nose can get off center and away from you. And then if that happens, they can get that nose to the opposite side of the circle, like in a counter bend. They can get straight and that hind quarter could be right in your face, and you can get double barreled right in the chest, in the face, in the neck, in the knee. It doesn't matter, but that hind quarter can get to you. And some horses are very, very fast. They can strike at that flag and you're like, whoa, what just happened? So there's a lot of different things that you need to be paying attention to. And it's not just, oh, well, let me pick up a flag and start waving it around, as you said earlier. Yeah. It's very methodical to pick that flag up. But that's how I go about introducing it, so I can really get them conditioned to being okay with it. Now, once they're okay with all of those things at the standstill, then we start introducing it to them once we move them out in the United Circle and we're starting the groundwork. And I have seen some horses come to me. I'm not even telling you how quiet they are with the flag while they're standing still. A bomb could go off and they're like, I don't care. I'm just standing here. That means nothing to me. You start moving your feet and move that flag and you have a whole new animal, because some people don't think it's as imperative to continue to do those same desensitizing movements once the feet are moving, but it does make a big difference to the horse. So once they start in that united circle, then I'm going to use that same kind of motion, that very relaxed rhythmical motion, reach up, pet them with it as they're moving around. And then once they're okay with the flag in general, then I can start poking around at the more sensitive spots. So like you were saying with your Mustang, I wouldn't poke him or touch him or have the flag give him any kind of signal to move unless he was jumping right on top of me and I was blocking or protecting myself, to desensitize those areas until he was okay with the flag as a tool.
Yeah. And you train it as a tool first, and like you train it as a tool. It's never trained as like a lunge whip. In me growing up, I used a lunge whip to get my horse to lunge around me. Let's put it that way. Whether that was correct or not, it doesn't matter. That's how I used it. But this, and even like your body position when you first introduce it, you've got your hand up in that triangle, as you said, there, the point of their shoulder and the nose. So you can, if they should come or spin around, you are protecting yourself. But your energy is straight out. It's not directed towards their body. And, and the difference with that opposed to facing out this way, being parallel with their body opposed to being faced towards their body. And let's say if even just the shift of your body and you're standing square with them and then you start flapping right next to their hindquarters, that's a different ask than trying to just get them to, what is she doing? Why is she waving this flag around?
Absolutely. The direction you send your energy out of your body toward them really makes a difference to them. Subtlety is, we don't even know what subtle is if you think about how subtle a horse can be. We fail to realize most of the time how sensitive they are and what just a flick of an ear from another herd mate means to them, barely raising their head up. All of that, they're having these little conversations constantly, but they can also feel a fly land on them. So the sensitivity level, and then the acute awareness to body language that they have versus us. We're very verbal creatures. So we don't rely on our body language so much. And I can't tell you how much we miss of what people do body language wise, because we are so focused on what we hear. And they're so focused on what they hear, feel, and see. So I want to keep that sensitivity, but I don't want my horse overly sensitive, which sounds like it's, counterintuitive. I want them to only respond to what has an intention behind it, but be able to ignore what isn't meant for them. And horses can separate that out brilliantly. Sometimes it takes a minute for them to understand what we're asking, but if we're consistent, we can do that. And that's where we're sending the intention, how we send it to them, how we're positioned, all means something to them. So we do have to become aware, and we talked about awareness the last time, of what our body is saying at what moment. So yes, that position of a nice relaxed position where my body's not offering for him to go anywhere. I'm ready to respond, but I don't have an intention and an energy in my body going, oh my God, what might you do if I flap this flag? So I want a nice relaxed feel. I want everything about me to say, you're safe. I am not trying to harm you. You're good. As long as you stay with me in this rectangle around us, we're good. And you're fine. But this can happen. This life out here can happen, and it doesn't have to bother you. And separating that out is very difficult. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of practice. But becoming aware of what you're saying by your position and how strong you look or how relaxed you look or how intimidated you look, all of those things really mean a lot to the horse. So your guy is going to be a little bit of a miss. You're going to have to be kind of the detective of, when I do this, what is he telling me? When I do this, what is he telling me? And then you can piece together how to work him through those, so he just accepts the pressure that you put on him and does what you want him to do.
Yeah. And he did really well. He did come out of the wild. So I know in his transition of becoming a wild horse to a domesticated horse and learning to, getting broke, I know that there is a lot of natural horsemanship methods used on him in that initial breaking. So when I started that groundwork with just a lead rope, I do have a flag at home, but I didn't even get it out. It's like hid in the corner. He can't even see it. He did immediately pick back up almost that united circle that we've talked about. And then, was really good at like tipping his nose to me and kind of curving and stepping out with his hind quarter. And I was like, oh, look, this is going to be great. You remember this stuff. But it was definitely, Yeah, I think it was the actual, like you said, I didn't think about, I'm bringing him back into work, but I'm bringing him back into work of something I have not done with him before. And just the pressure of even just flexing. Yeah, maybe flexing him a little bit more without that bit in that lead rope situation on the ground. But let's go back, because if somebody is listening to this, maybe they have never used a flag before. They do some groundwork, but let's say they do it in a round pen with no connection, more like a Liberty, or they're lunging with a lunge line, that traditional, what English discipline, how they lunge, things like that, how we lunge, whatever. It doesn't matter what kind of discipline. Why is doing this type of groundwork and working with a flag instrumental in the overall training process for all breeds, all types of disciplines?
I have found that just working with the flag, first of all, it helps us determine and distinguish a boundary and a bubble between our horse and ourselves. If you're just working with a lunge whip, it's so flexible and so long that it's a little bit more difficult to establish that boundary, but it can be used as a desensitizing tool if it's applied as that, instead of just something to initiate forward or move the feet. I feel like the approach of any tool out there can be used to a benefit and not a punishment, if you think of it as a tool and an aid. The way I feel like all things out there are meant to be an aid, but it's how we apply them and how we use them. If the horse only gets hit with a crop to move forward, or when he did a bad thing, he's always going to have a negative feel or a little flinch when he sees it. I know everybody out there has seen the person put the crop behind them and sneak it up behind them and slide it to the rider, because the horse is fearful of that. He knows what it means, and it only means smack my butt when something
Bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So they have a negative connotation to it. But if you only use it as a support to your leg, which is what it's meant to be, you put the leg on, there's your soft offer, you have no response. You offer a little bit more with your body, and there's no response. And then you get there with the crop and he has to go. But as soon as he goes, you pet him. And then you pet him with the crop. And then you might wave it around a little bit in a very non-threatening manner. And he never associates that crop, that lunge whip, whatever tool is in your hand, with a negative punishment. So I feel like that is a very important thing. But for me, the flag, really, it's a tool that is so versatile. First of all, because it has that stiffness to it. If the horse does get too close, you almost have like a little bit of you can only go this far. Yes, they can bend the flag if they really, really chose to. They're a very strong animal, but it's a little bit more of a strong barrier. If it has more noise and visual effect for your desensitizing side of things than a lunge whip or just like a crop or something like that. Now, that doesn't say we can't find other things to help desensitize them, but it's very versatile. It's easy to carry. And the other thing is, it really gives us as people, because when I tell people to work with their lead rope, and I really love for people to introduce this groundwork just with the tail of their lead rope to get familiar with it, get a little bit comfortable. And you use it like the twirling of the tail of your lead rope as your pressure to move your horse away or forward if you need more than just your offer. And the flag comes in and replaces that stimulus. I always think of my lead hand as sending direction, and then my support hand, which has either my flag, sometimes it could be a lariat rope coiled up, or it could just be the tail of your lead rope. That's your support, or your assistance for impulsion if you need it to be, but it can also be a desensitizing tool. But the groundwork in general that I like to do, and it doesn't matter if we're working free in a round pen connected on the line, or even under saddle. All of these movements really help to develop a horse that wants to be connected, look to you for a confident leader. And then it also helps to develop their body to do whatever discipline that you want. You're starting to teach them to laterally engage the hind quarter by stepping forward and across. When we do our untracking, their head is bent to the inside, their shoulders lift, step forward and away, and then that inside hind quarter steps forward toward the outside front. And their body makes almost like this C shape, which really engages their core, elevates the wither, and teaches them to drive from behind with lightness in the front. And it really encourages balance, overall balance, and a really strong top line. With a really strong top line and that kind of balance and flexibility and suppleness that you're building in, it automatically helps them with collection. A horse cannot be collected if they're not balanced. They also can't be collected if they're not driving from the hind quarter and lifting through their back. I really love watching the transformation of horses that have either never been worked or haven't been worked in this fashion. A lot of them are really hollow across the wither. You can almost see their spine across their back, unless, obviously like your little Mustang is kind of tubby. But the muscling, and then their shape really starts to change, and you see a strength come across the back, and those little hollows next to the wither start to fill in because they're really lifting through their body and using their back properly. And you can feel it. When you ride them, you can really feel that this horse isn't as bouncy anymore, or he's really feeling lighter in my hand because he's elevated through his wither and carrying himself from behind. And I always say, when their back is lifted and engaged, it gives you somewhere to ride. And you don't feel like the saddle kind of sinks out from under you, especially in the sitting trot or the canter, where their back does a lot more movement. And when their back is up, it's like, oh, well, this is kind of nice, because it's just a nice place to ride. And then the horses are happier too, because we're not pounding on their spine because it's harder for us to balance on a horse that's not engaged.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse and you're like, I just can't get my rhythm with him. And most of the time it's because they're not traveling with their back meeting you halfway. Right. So those are the main reasons I like to start with the flag. It's such a versatile tool. And these groundwork exercises that I have learned over the years from various different places and people have shown me I can get a horse to develop himself and learn how to shape and position and build muscle before I ever sit up there. So, I mean, it's really, really great if you have a foal that you're starting to bring along. You can do little bits of this when they're babies, and you start building that muscle memory before they're ever sat on. And then, you keep on little bit by little bit as they're a yearling and a 2-year-old. And before you know it, by the time you sit on these young ones, first of all, they're already broke, because you've done so much, they've seen so much that they're unfazed, and they know whenever they're with you, nothing bad happens. And then their muscles are developed so lovely that sitting on them is not hard for them. But even in the older horses, we can develop it so well just by doing and it doesn't have to be a long time. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be, I got to go out there and do that groundwork for an hour. No, it doesn't have to be that. It's obviously longer in the beginning, the weaker the horse or the less educated they are. But then we start to develop them. It might be 2 or 3 minutes. But on top of keeping their muscles developed, it's a little safety check. Where's your brain today? Are you with me? And that's a little mantra that I play in my head all the time, no matter what horse I'm working. I want them mentally to be engaged with me. When the brain leaves, the feet want to follow. And that's where escalation of negative things, bad things tend to happen. The ear goes out, the eye goes out, then the feet start to leave. And I hear it all the time. All of a sudden, the horse just blew up. And it can happen very, very quickly. But if you are 100% in tune the whole ride and thinking, are you with me? Are you with me? Are you with me? You start to develop this intuitive feel of whenever that horse even starts to shift mentally out of your rectangle, and you recenter him. And the faster you recenter him, the less likely he is to actually finish leaving. You might think about it, but then you can say, no, 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 stay here. And he's like, okay, you got me. I'm okay. And that's a horse you can take anywhere. And most of the time, avoid those big explosions that tend to happen when they 100% leave the rectangle. So I'm just super happy to find all of these horses consistently changing, regardless of how they start, where they start, what breed they are, how they're ridden, what job they have. I see a very consistent turnaround in how they accept pressure, understand their job, and aren't offended by anything that we do for them.
Right, which is ultimately why you continue down this path. You have found a training technique, a pre-plan to your overall ride, let's say, and it works. It's been working.
It works for me, and I get a lot of different types of horses in.
Yeah.
All different disciplines, breeds, gated horses, non-gated, jumpers, Western horses, trail riding horses, fox hunting horses. So horses with multiple different jobs, different expectations from them. But the prep work that I do, it seems to mentally get the horse where they're able to be okay with whatever we ask of them. And I think that's remarkable. And there's still so much more to it that I haven't even really there's so much more to learn, but I found something that really, really helps a lot of different horses. The hardest part is getting everybody that I work with to be able to channel their energy in a way that the horse understands that when they're with them, they're safe as well. And sometimes that's a struggle for certain people. If it's a really, really nervous person, they have to take that breath and say, okay, I'm okay. And then there's a lot of people that never want to be mean to their horse. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they see firming up and getting the job done when they're being a little bit less agreeable as a punishment. And it's not. It's just the same as if you had a dog or a child and you set a boundary. You're setting a boundary and an expectation. And if they don't meet that expectation, you do something to change what they've done. And it's no different because it's not a punishment. It's just a line in the sand that you draw and you say, okay, as soon as you get back on this side with me, everything is peaceful. And it's not, I'm out there whipping on my horse to get him to do the right thing. I just might move his feet around a little bit more constructively, hustle him through some things to help him redirect that mind back to me. The more he's out here worried about something else, and the faster I move his feet through little exercises, mostly direction changes, untrack the hindquarter, send him in the next direction, untrack the hindquarter, send him in the next direction. I trick that mind a little bit into coming back to me. Something that's, I feel like it's a little kind of cool thing that horses do. They all have that little bit of wild in them. Yours has way more awareness. That Mustang has way more awareness because he was wild. But at the same time, when he was first captured, he never had anything negative from a human. Mm-hmm. So everything put into him hopefully was really good stuff. And he understands that people are not anything to be feared, obviously. If he's going, I really don't want to move from you, he's kind of not afraid of you.
He's not.
Which is great. But horses, even ones born in captivity, have that natural instinct to be, there's a threat. What do I do with the threat? So when a horse gets threatened, they go into reactivity. When they react, if they're allowed to, they're going to run. And they run away. And they'll run away until they perceive the threat is no longer there. And then what do? They turn around and they look, is it still there? So they don't stop and think and go back into that responsive thinking side of
Mm,
things that is reasonable
right.
until they perceive the threat is gone. But when we untrack them and change direction and untrack and change direction, we talked a little bit last time about changing eyes and going
Yeah.
through those blind spots. But whenever we basically put the front where the hind was, it almost forces them into that I have to think about it. I have to think about it. I have to think about it. And that's what brings them down faster. And it's also why lunging them in a continuous circle, chasing them with a lunge whip to tire them out, it doesn't build that bond or make that connection because it's basically a predator just chasing a prey animal and not letting him stop and think, am I okay? He's constantly going, I'm in trouble, I'm in trouble, I'm being chased, I'm being attacked, basically,
Well,
is
also,
their thought on it.
yeah. And also, I don't want me personally, I don't want my horses when they see me coming into the barn, getting them out of the stall or approaching them in the pasture to associate me with dog tired work. I consider myself an athlete. I always have been. I've ridden my whole life. I'm training for a half marathon. I'm not saying I'm a good athlete, but I have to keep my body moving. However, if I did CrossFit every single day, you better believe I want to train for a half marathon or ride my horses. So in my mind, like negative hard work, physical hard work, and especially like if you were yelling at me every 5 minutes and being like ride harder, no, I want to be your client. So I don't want a lot of times I find myself the viewpoints that I have myself, I associate my horse may have viewpoints like that too. So I don't want to be I don't want my horse to associate me with negative hard work and not want to come to me or bond with me because every time I get them out, I am working them where they're dog tired. I want them to enjoy their work and I want to change it up. But if you feel like you have to, and there's nothing wrong with that, if you're trying to work energy out of them before you can even get on, um, like you said, you may make them tired, but you're also making them more conditioned and stronger and building their stamina. So guess what? In a month, it's going to take even longer before you can even get on their back. So are you addressing the real problem? So yeah, like with my Mustang, um, if I had been listening to this and as a listener and thought and had this issue with my Mustang and thought, I'm going to go get a flag and I'm going to start desensitizing. I will say from my personal experience, when I first held a flag and started using it, not waving it around, but just it was so foreign to me. It was a separate piece of me. And we were talking about this earlier. I was so rigid with it because I'm like, and like you told me, go home and walk around like your pasture or your house and just get that fluid motion down where it feels like it's a part of you. So that was also, I had to do a lot of my own work playing with the flag, not playing with it, but getting used to the motion of it. So when I did use it, I wasn't like beating on my horse, like it was just a hard stick. Let me put it that way.
Absolutely. It does definitely take time getting used to it being a fluid motion. Look in a mirror or a window at yourself because sometimes you can't feel, are you fluid? You know, sometimes it's just, and you don't know that that's what you're doing. So look at yourself and see, does that look like a little spaghetti noodle? Because it kind of needs to look like a little spaghetti noodle. The fluidness needs to come all through the arm so that the horse doesn't see you as a threat. So keeping that fluid with the flag, making sure that you aren't stiff and rigid, and how you can have the energy coming off of you match what goes to the flag. You can change it when you need an intention, get a little bit more rigid, but it shouldn't ever come off as like, you know, like this like you don't want to see like the ringmaster whipping the tiger. It should always be fluid and precise and intentive. The tip of the flag should be where you should aim the energy and toward what foot you want to move, basically with the tip of the flag. So if you want that hind quarter to step under, and they're not going just off your lead hand coming across and you offer, the tip of that flag can go tap, 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 tap in the air with some, like a little extra zing to it, intention coming off of it. And then that horse goes, oh, I just need to step away from this energy. But then it can go back to noodle, woo, easy going, easy peasy. And you can reach up and pet them with it again. And they go, oh, well, now I just keep doing whatever I was doing. It doesn't mean to move. And you want to make sure that that tool stays where the horse isn't fearful of it. The intention comes from you, but just like you said, it's a foreign body. It has to become part of you. Right. And I feel like people need to practice that before they just run out, grab a flag and go, I'm just going to conquer the world with my flag. Well, get comfortable with it first. Get really, really comfortable with it. Sometimes people need to get comfortable just twirling the lead rope and have it not be like whack, 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 where they're whipping them. It just needs to be a soft, gentle thing. So all of those things are really, really important to do well and not just get out there and go, well, this stuff doesn't work. Well, sometimes it doesn't work because of our intention behind it. Our intention is the main thing that drives what the horse is going to do with or for us.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like going back to the benefits of this groundwork, and especially with me on my own journey of bringing my little Mustang back into work too. And he is overweight. He's a little bit older now, just getting him back into shape. Again, going back to what you said, you don't have to do groundwork for an hour for them to get good, to get fitness, to build up their fitness level, to get something out of it positive mentally and physically. But I associate this groundwork, again, here I am trying to make ties of, personal human being with a horse athlete. But I almost feel like groundwork can be like strength training for a person. You don't have to go out there and run a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles to be physically fit. You can lift weights, you can do things. And that's where I kind of feel like groundwork is, because it does overall help build balance, like you said, through the core, through their top line, teaching them to step under themselves and be balanced behind before you're ever even sitting on their backs. Note to self, I won't sit on my Mustang's back after a few more groundwork sessions and see how we respond.
That also gives me one other thing that I did want to mention. When we were talking about, that horse running around with the lunge whip being chased, you have got to build breaks in to your riding program. The horse cannot just keep going and going and going without a break, or he won't understand that there's something in it for him. There has to be pressure and release, and the release of pressure it doesn't always have to be stop and stand in the middle of the arena, but it needs to be built in. If you're working at something, and all of a sudden you feel, oh my gosh, he got it. Stop. You don't have to stop, like stop, don't do anything, but you need to stop and pause for a second, or just change the exercise that you're doing. Give them a mental break and a release. But I also like to build, if it's been a struggle, like they're really, really riding that struggle bus going, I'm fighting you, I don't get it, resistance. And then all of a sudden you get this lightness and this light bulb. You go, whoa, stop, pet, 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 good boy. Give them that time to soak that in, that release is what they were really searching for. And then they go, oh, and then they find it faster and faster. And then you can carry it longer and longer, but you have to build up to those things. And you can't just pound on them and pound on them and pound on them. But depending on the job that the horse has, say it's a horse show, you might have to go in and jump a couple rounds in a row and then stand around for 20 or 30 minutes waiting for your flat.
Yeah.
That horse needs to know that it's okay for you to be sitting on him and him not doing anything. So if you never build that into your ride, he never knows that it's okay for you to be up there and him to just chill.
Yeah.
So I feel like building these breaks, knowing that pressure and release is how the horse learns and processes, and they learn more from the release of pressure, not the pressure we put on them, that will help develop that bond and that quietness that we're looking for, that comfort, and the horse not dreading seeing you come into the pasture or the stall or wherever and going, oh no, run away, work, work, work. He can enjoy his work and enjoy his job because it's not so taxing on him physically and mentally. Yes, we want to build fitness. The horse needs to be able to be fit enough to do his job, but he should enjoy it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's a good reminder to build in breaks. And like you said, if you were planning to go to a horse show and you're sitting on your horse and it takes 30 minutes for everybody to do their rounds, and then maybe you have a flat class that you have to go into. Also, the horse understanding that when you have the intent to bring the energy up, they're like, oh, we're ready to go again. And then it comes back down. So, and I feel like that is so tied with the groundwork. As soon as they step under or whatever you're asking them to do, it's a good boy, stop, and you're petting. And that teaches such a good understanding of the pressure and the release. So much more than being in the saddle, in my opinion, in my experience.
Yeah, 100%, because they can see it all over your body. And then it translates into the saddle. But if you teach it on the ground first, they have a realistic expectation of that pressure and release, and they respond to it very, very quickly. And then especially if you use the flat, like on a colt, and they don't understand what leg means. And then you can use your flag or your stirrup to kind of like bump on them. And when they move over, you release, and they get that. So then when you get up there and it's your leg doing it, they have a better sense of, oh, pressure means move, release means good job. And it's amazing to me at how rideable a young horse or a new horse that's got a very little understanding of what the reins do and what the legs do and what the body means, how quickly they connect after this style of groundwork is really in place, and they understand it because you're building such a good connection. And the idea, pressure, do something, pressure goes away, I did the right thing. Pressure, do something. And the horse is going to do different things when you apply pressure. And it's not that he's trying to be naughty. And a lot of people say, oh, well, he's trying to run away, he's trying to buck, he's trying to do this. He's trying to figure out what is the answer to the question you just asked me. I put pressure on you. Now I'm putting it in a specific way, and I want a specific shape or movement or gait. And that pressure is not going to go away until he finds that. Well, he might go, well, buck, is that the answer? Rear, is that the answer? Run away, is that the answer? Flex right, is that the answer? And the answer I might be looking for is flex left. And then he goes flex left, pressure goes away. He goes, oh, well, is that all I had to do? But all of those other things he did are his way of searching for the right answer. And he's just searching what is the answer to the question. Pressure goes away.
Yeah.
The question is, you put pressure on, and then the answer is the pressure goes away. So he's just searching, when the pressure comes on in this shape or in this manner, how do I get it to go away? And that's pretty much how a horse, if you really want to oversimplify it, that's how they work. You put pressure on, they try to do something to make it go away. When they do the right thing, you take the pressure off. They go, oh, well, when I feel it like this, I do this, everything's happy.
Yeah.
I wish it was that easy all the time, though.
It's basically like positive reinforcement training. That's what it is. You're positively reinforcing good behavior. When they do the good job, you take the pressure off. And I think that's important too, to remember. Yeah, I think it's important for equestrians and riders to understand too, and especially, I'm not mad at my Mustang. I'm not fearful of him. I'm none of those things. I recognize he hasn't been in work in a very long time, and now next time when I go to work, I have a plan of, we're really going to focus on this groundwork. I'm going to start really working on desensitization and all of that, but also I'm going to make a plan of attack with him. So in my business world, and whenever I'm planning content or I'm having a meeting with a potential new partner, I call it my pre-call planning. And I think in my head, what is my ultimate goal from this meeting? Or what's my ultimate goal for this article or this piece of content? And I do a pre-planning. And I think that's, in this sense, I need to approach it the same way. I need to go in with kind of a checklist of things that I want to accomplish, not in 2 months with him or, ultimately, but breaking it down bite-sized pieces of, what do I want to accomplish today? And focus on just it, even if it's just one thing, and have that checklist. But is that something that you do when you're working with a new horse, or even working with, trying to finesse a horse that you've been working with for a while, and you're trying to get him just to that next little step, that next goal? Do you break it down bite-sized pieces?
Absolutely, 100%. If you can't do each component that builds a movement together, then you can't do the movement. So if I need to do, just for an example, a leg yield, what are the components that I need for a leg yield to be really, really good? First of all, I need soft feel to be very consistent. I need to be able to pick up my reins and that horse say, here's your soft feel. Then I need to be able to change the bend within that soft feel and him not go, I get straight in my brace. So then I will make sure that happens. Then I also need, what else do I need? I need him to move laterally off my leg. So then we'll move laterally off the leg. Can that happen easily? And if any one of those components is difficult on its own, why in the world would I try to combine all of them? So yes, I do break it down into bite-sized pieces, but to go back even a little bit further, I always have kind of an idea, depending on where we are and what we've been working on, of what I want to do next. And that's, okay, in this ride, I would love to accomplish this, this, and this. And that is something that I do plan for each ride. However, horses don't always read my plan book, and they might come out with a completely different situation that day. And I have to go, okay, scramble around and go, this is where you need help today, and be very prepared to, this is what I'm going to work on. So I might have all these intentions of, we're going to jump today, and we're going to school some gymnastics. That might be my plan. And he comes out and he goes, I'm afraid of whatever's in that corner. And the green-eyed monster showed up that I can't see, but he can see. But that's where we're going to work. We're going to work on, let's just get you back into the rectangle, comfortable being with me. Because if your mind is just trying to leave and distracted by whatever this boogeyman is over here, then you're not going to get any good work out of those cavalettis, because his mind's not with you. So you have to be prepared to do what is beneficial for the horse that day. And 9 out of 10 times, if the horse is being in a consistent program and you're doing all of your things to keep him with you, reassuring that you are a safe place, those things shouldn't happen very often. But every now and then, the wheels fall off the bus. And horse training kind of goes like this. It goes up and down and up and down. Anybody that thinks it's like you start here and you just go, no, it doesn't work that way. You don't just climb to the top with no divots. It is a pothole of a road, and it goes up and down. And the better you get at recognizing when the horse needs specific help from you and addressing those issues, the less bumps in the road. The downs are very, very shallow, and the ups are very, very tall. And that's all we can hope for with our horses. And that's mainly the goal that I try to do on a daily. And each horse is an individual. You have to address him for who he is and not compare him to, well, my thoroughbred does this, and I want my Mustang to do the same thing. It's not going to happen that way. They're all individuals. And if we embrace that and work with it, then we get the joy out of each individual, and we can help them to the best of our ability.
Yes. Well, I think this is great. I feel like we're probably going to wrap up this conversation, but in the next conversation, we can talk about consistency, because I feel like consistency for equestrians is one of the harder things, especially if you're not doing it every single day like a professional trainer, or you can't ride every day, or just the circumstances. But what consistency looks like and what it teaches, we said earlier with Kevin, who's over at Robyn's right now, he's just turned into such a great consistent horse, but he was trained with consistency, so it goes hand in hand. But I'm now excited. Not only do you have Kevin, who's we're excited about, but now I've got a Mustang in my pasture that's gonna give us plenty to talk about, I feel like, in this journey.
100%, but it's also going to help you apply what you've learned with Kevin to a different personality. So it's the same principles, but each horse needs a different application of pressure and release. So how do I apply it to Kevin versus the Mustang, and tweaking your body language to be more effective, and reading, okay, what does he need from me? So that's going to be fun for you too, I feel.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm on this journey with Josie, the Mustang, now, after I've had time to get used to the flag and understand and get used to the groundwork and get my body feeling, me feeling the correct movements and what I'm looking for specifically will be hugely helpful with him. And I still may have to trailer him over for group lessons and be like, take this. Help. So,
well, we will be more than happy to help you out with that, no matter what you need. But yeah. I feel like you are in a very good place to attempt her on your own now.
Yes. Well, I am hopeful with these conversations, people can listen, get inspired, want to learn. That's the biggest thing. I think with training, we talked about last time too, there's always learning. You're always going to learn. And every time you approach a different horse, or you get a new horse, or maybe you're taking lessons with multiple different horses, like you said, they all have different personalities. So I'm very hopeful that these conversations are motivating you to get a closer bond with your horses, and also motivating you to learn things that maybe you're not doing that can help enhance your horse be the best horse, and you be the best rider and the horse person that you can be. But we want questions. We want, maybe it's a story. Maybe it's something like me, like, yeah, I got my Mustang out of the pasture after 2 years and then he tried to throw me off. I mean, everybody's going to be like, well, duh. But we want to be able to address problems that maybe you're having, or answer questions that you have, or even if you're horse shopping, like things that you should be looking for in the level of horse that you're looking at, anything. So please email me. You can find my email on the website or in the print issue. It is published there. I can always shoot those over to Robyn. And if you know Robyn, or, text her or call her or shoot her a message, we would love to have plenty of questions to address. And we're just going to be filtering through, like I said, Training Tip Tuesday, at least once a month, where we're going to be talking about all things training, and hopefully not always problems. Training horses doesn't always mean there's a problem. It's just getting to the next goal.
It is. Kevin really wasn't a problem. He was just, he had some issues, and now that he's through a lot of his anxiety issues, he is such a joy to work with, and it's just enhancing his education, and he's moving to the next step and to the next step and to the next step, and it's fun. Mm-hmm. I enjoy every bit of what he can teach me from his unique perspective, and what I can teach him, and how now we're doing this and now we're doing this. And it's so fun. Horses are fun. They are fun. They're educational. They're great teachers, and they're great companions. And we can get so much joy out of them if we allow ourselves to do it. So thank you so much, Lauren. I really love these conversations that we're having. They're so much fun for me.
Well, great. I can't wait for this to go up. We've got some great conversations planned for the month of November. You can find the horse review at www.midsouthhorsereview.com. You can opt into our email newsletters, where we'll send out where you can find podcast links, but also you can subscribe to the monthly publication there. And until the next Training Tip Tuesday, send us your questions. Shoot us something on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, random question. Maybe it's a problem. Maybe you're trying to get back into riding and you just don't even really know where to start, or you're looking for new avenues with your training. So until next time, until Training Tip Tuesday number 3 episode, we'll be here to hopefully entertain you. How about that?
Sounds great.
Thank you for joining the Horse Talk podcast. You can find Horse Talk on any major podcast app, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is The Horse Review. To subscribe to the Mid-South Horse Review to receive our monthly publication, you can visit www.midsouthhorsereview.com/subscribe. Until next time, this is Lauren Abbott, publisher of The Horse Review, and I can't wait for our next episode where we talk horses.